How's it going, everyone? It's me, Vivi, and let's talk about some Ratchet and Clank. So the future of the series, no, this video is not about whether or not the next game should be posted to the Nexus or reimagining. You get it, I did talk about this a lot in the past. So let's not dive into that right now. Well, if anything, I just want to say the following. Surely they have thought of something, at least at this point. Sure, they're busy with Spider-Man DLCs, but Insomniac Games has multiple teams. Stuff I've said in the past. What's the point? Okay. So with TJ Fixman out of the picture, according to this tweet, something some of you are probably not familiar with, so let's go. Someone asked a question about the continuity of the 2016 game. Here's what he said about that. I always considered it a reboot, but if there's ever another Ratchet and Clank game, it's naturally up to the next writer/creative team, hinting at not being the next writer. This was posted on October 13th. Not convinced enough? Another tweet before this. Nope. If there is a next game, I will not be the one to write it. I have a full plate with features and comics right now, just feeling a little nostalgic after opening the feature script file for the first time in a few years. This was when he shared, like, the draft of the movie. I did talk about this as well. Why am I bringing up TJ Fixman, you might ask? Well, he's been writing the series since the start of the Future Saga, Tools of Destruction, with him out of the picture, and his last written Ratchet and Clank project being the reimagining. What will the next writer's vision be like? Will it follow the more pixarized version of Ratchet and Clank? You know, the 2016 game? This is what I've been hearing from people who dislike the game in short. I mean, really, I don't disagree with the whole Pixar thing. Anyways, where was I? Yes, will it follow that version of the game, or the old charming humor we all fell in love with? This is not meant to sound like, oh, TJ Fixman changed the style of writing for the 2016 game. Not at all. He was given the task to write for that game, a game based off the movie. Knowing what he's done in the past, writing for the Future Saga, the guy has it in him. Okay, I don't want this to sound like I'm being negative about him, okay? Here's another tweet he shared regarding the whole writing aspect. I will always have a place for Ratchet and Clank in my heart, so I never say never, but the movie experience was stressful. Not because of Insomniac Games or Sony. They were great, but I wouldn't go back in the same situation again for the games. It's time for a new writer to take a crack at it. Remember, Fixman didn't want any credit for the film, despite his name being shared among the three writers, Gary Swallow, Kevin Munro. Long story short, there was a difference of opinion between him and Kevin Munro. These are things I've already discussed in the past, so I'm not gonna repeat myself, right? If you're curious, look at the playlist, you'll find the video. With that out of the way, how will this new writer, whoever it is, handle the assets? Insomniac Games is notorious for having used assets, gameplay-wise especially. Weapons, hello, recycling the combustor, you know, weapons we've seen over and over again. I mean, when it comes to reusing assets for a writer, let's say, we talk more about the references and the tie-ins. Like characters from previous games, will they get referenced? How will they be connected with this said game? With the 2016 game in the picture. Hold up, before you say anything, no, I'm not saying Insomniac Games is making a sequel to the reimagining. It hasn't been confirmed. I'm just saying, with everything the new writer has on the table, if you combine the word asset and reference, will this new person use, let's say, something I've had in mind for a long time, the new Galactic Rangers? I mean, hey, TJ Fixman once went as far as to say this, interviewed by a fan back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. This was posted in 2015 over on Ratchet Galaxy. Are there humans in the Ratchet and Clank universe? TJ replied, in my mind, no, there are no humans in Ratchet and Clank. That is something Brian Hastings and I discussed in 2007, but again, someone else may come along and change that. So if he went on to say that, it wouldn't be too far off to say that this new writer might reuse characters from the 2016 game and put a whole new twist to it. Humans in Ratchet and Clank, this reminds me of what I recently saw. Star Fox on Nintendo Switch. Anyone, the closest thing to a human in the Ratchet and Clank series is pretty much Captain Quark. For those wondering about these fan questions from 2015, there's a bunch of interesting ones. I will leave the link in the description below. So about this new new potential writer. He or she doesn't need to call them the Galactic Rangers, even. Just have them as a new set of characters altogether. The ones who I see have great potential as reuse. Well, one in particular, Elaris. Out of all of the members of the Galactic Rangers team, I think Elaris, she was my favorite, and I do see a lot of potential in reusing this character. With Elaris in the next game, well, let's not say next game, okay, let's talk about the future of the series. The story of hers, whatever it could be, I just have this feeling Clank's gonna get involved. Similar to the movie and game. Now, according to this guidebook I bought back in late August 2016, was it, published by Scholastic, it goes over the weapons, Ratchet's armor, character descriptions, nothing new really, but I just feel like reading descriptions right now, okay? Elaris. Elaris is the Galactic Rangers science officer in charge of developing new gear and providing technical support on their missions. She's one of the smartest people in the galaxy. Elaris and Clank enjoy working together to find solutions to challenges the Rangers face. If you're curious about this book, you can find it over on Amazon and your local bookstore. Give it a try. There's nothing out of the ordinary reading this description. We know Clank was concerned of her well-being, you know, working in a tight closet space, her putting up with Quark, wondering if she would turn mad, you know what happened to Nefarious, the Galactic Rangers, making him turn completely mad, if you remember. Now, did you know that Elaris was supposed to have a love interest? Yes, it's not mentioned in the description. It was cut content. And why was it? Due to the movie length. It would be too long. This was stated by Kevin Munro. Dislike his vision all you want, but this part of the movie which was cut, I always was curious about it. This was stated in an article where 20 things you probably didn't know about the movie were shared. Originally, there was to be a 5th Galactic Ranger named Stig, who was going to be Elaris' love interest. While Stig remained in the script for a long time, he eventually got cut, as the movie was too long. There's a reference to her crush somewhere in Elaris' basement office. What if the next writer took this character, Stig, and put a huge twist to it? He wasn't used in the movie, but why not use him in a future game? For example, he could have been selfish, a jerk, horrible boyfriend, who could have stolen all of her glory, her tech. He used all of that to create his company without crediting her, neglecting her, treating her poorly. You know, Elaris was the original creator. Think of a situation, but all of it was stolen from her. And her just being good in nature, she didn't do anything about it. Clank, for example, gets concerned about her. Like, hey, you're being used. Why didn't you do anything about it? Maybe she had reasons, quote unquote, to justify his actions. Do you understand how they could just take aspects of the 2016 game, story-wise, and just recycle them and create something even better? Hey, why not make it so maybe she knew Nefarious as well in the past? Nefarious has a bunch of stories. We don't know everything about him. Only that he was bullied by Quark, made fun of. Don't look at the new timeline, I'm talking about the old timeline here. Nefarious was kicked out of the Galactic Rangers. Now I'm talking about the 2016 timeline. He was driven mad by the Galactic Rangers. This side of Nefarious we saw at the end of All for One, just looking at the picture, wondering what it'd be like to have friends at this point. Just seeing that, I feel there's a side of him which he's not willing to show. We even saw this in cutscenes in the game. But why? Why is he ignoring that part of him? Well, the way he's grown as a character, he's known as a supervillain. He feels confident of himself, having that sort of attention. But what if he were to show a different side of him? Maybe he's afraid to be looked at differently, feel embarrassed. Acting nice in an unusual way, something we're not used to when it comes to Nefarious, maybe that reminds him of the days with Quark. Hey, deep down, being villain all the time is like a coping mechanism. Here's an idea. Take the whole Nefarious being driven crazy from the 2016 game, soften it up, and apply it to Elaris instead. Make it so Nefarious, I guess, knew her in the past. Perhaps even before turning robotic. Perhaps they were in the same class. Quark probably knew her but just didn't care. That's why he never mentioned her. A long time ago, when in organic life form. Nefarious, let's say, saw potential in this girl named Elaris. They could have been friends. Elaris could have been the one who saw something from Nefarious. Yes, he was bullied by Quark, but maybe the others also made fun of him. We don't know much of his story, only of him and Quark. Remember, evil is not born, it's created. Remember me saying Nefarious no longer never needs to be a main villain. I mean, they've used that idea enough. If he does return, sure, why not? But main villain, I think it's time they try something different. So with that in mind, there could be a situation where Nefarious mentions Elaris, how I knew this girl, saw potential in her, and maybe eventually in robotic form, something he hasn't shared to anyone. He met her, telling her you were a fool to fall in love with Stig. Hey, maybe Nefarious knew that Stig would be a bad guy, eventually. Not bad as like Nefarious, causing havoc in the universe, but more like stealing her potential. In short, I don't want this to turn too much into a fiction, okay? The idea is having Elaris brought back in a different style of story, you know, switch it up, have Stig involved being a bad guy. And who knows, Elaris perhaps knew Nefarious. She did know Nefarious in the 2016 game, but if we're looking at the original timeline, if she does return in that timeline, they could do something, her knowing Nefarious. But what about the other Galactic Rangers? Brax, for example. Brax was known, you know, to be part of Grapplemania. Okay, I do remember reading somewhere that Grapplemania was part of Dread Zone. I read it somewhere in the novel. I tried flipping the pages, I just couldn't find the word. But according to the wiki page, Dread Zone is referenced in the novel, which I couldn't find, but I do remember reading that word. But anyways, I'm wondering, if he was part of Dread Zone, how did he deal with Gleam and Vox, knowing that the others were forced against their own will? Was he treated like Ace Hardlight and was lucky enough to escape? Right? Just knowing that little information, they could do something with Brax. As for Cora, I'm not too sure. She could be some sort of fighter, maybe being part of intergalactic law, something like that, part of the system, defending the galaxy. But the idea is, do you feel like some of the Galactic Rangers, at least for Elaris, should be completely recycled and reused? If you feel like none of them should be recycled, say so in the comments, explain why. If you believe it's a good idea, at least for one or two characters, explain why as well. And tell me, what type of story do you feel like could be used for, let's say, Elaris? Do you feel like Clank's gonna get involved? Do you feel like she'll be a bad guy? Like the complete opposite? Anyways, I'll leave you be, put everything in the comments, and as always, I've been Vivi, and thank you so much for watching.